Welcome to another wonderful episode of Write and Shine, Shining Through Your Words author series, proudly brought to you by Write and Shine Media House. My name is Magriet, and I'm just absolutely delighted about the incredible authors around the globe joining me here for episodes as we are nearing the end of our series. But it's just like the people are just getting better and better and better as we grow along with their stories and also turning their pain into their purpose, which is something I'm incredibly passionate about. David, please will you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hi, my name's David Mark Quigley. I'm originally from New Zealand. I now reside in Southwest Florida. So I originally left New Zealand in 1996 and now reside in the US. And so my passion is writing about aggressive wildlife conservation. So I write action adventure novels. They're quite large novels, upwards of 150,000 words. And so everything that I write on is based on fact. And so I write about those keystone species and the way that they can be aggressively preserved. And what I do is I write specifically about them. And I've also formed a wildlife nonprofit foundation. So a percentage of my royalties goes to that foundation so I can donate, or my foundation can donate on behalf of my readers to worthy wildlife conservation around the world. And so a lot of people are interested in donating to wildlife causes, and so I make it very easy. I have a board of directors, 5 directors, and once I have funneled a portion of those royalties to the foundation, we then donate it on the reader's behalf. So through entertainment, people can also support wildlife conservation. So my passion is African wildlife and the preservation of them, and that's really what I write about, and that's what I focus my attention on.
It's incredible. And like I mentioned to you earlier off the record, it's just incredible the passion and people from around the globe to take hands to preserve African wildlife is just really heartwarming being here in South Africa myself. So I do want to ask you, David, the backstory, you as an author. Please share with us, what made you pick up a pen to start writing?
Okay, so throughout my whole life, I've suffered severely from dyslexia. I still can't break words up into syllables. If I come across a word nowadays that I've never come across before, it's like putting a car into neutral and putting your foot on the accelerator. That's what happens to my brain. I cannot register it. So I can't break those words up into syllables. But I slowly overcame it through writing. I've never passed an English test in my life, and I never picked up my first book and read it cover to cover until I was 23 years of age.
Yeah.
And so I thought my life was destined to work as a farmhand on the land because as soon as I left high school, I shied away from any type of academia. And so, but it wasn't until my father came to me and said that I wasn't indispensable, anybody could do my job, and that I should travel overseas. And that's what I did. And so I actually traveled overseas following another love of mine, which is rugby. And so I traveled the world playing rugby. And when I got to South Africa, I injured a knee and I couldn't continue to play for the rest of the season. So I decided to take those several months and I went on a safari around Southern Africa. I started at the Eye of Kuraman in the Transvaal, and I went up through Namibia, up to Sosaville, Skeleton Coast, to Windhoek, and then across the Kalahari to the Okavango Delta, up into the Chobe National Park, and up into Victoria Falls, and then eventually back down to Johannesburg. And that experience was life-changing for me, because it opened up a world to me that I never knew existed. And so fast forward to probably 6 months or so, I was in Paddington Station in London, and I was about to embark on a train journey of about 2.5 hours to go to a place called Leamington Spa in the centre of England. And back then, there was no cell phones, there was no portable video devices or anything like that. And I thought, what am I going to do? And so this is when I was 23 years of age. And I was standing outside a W.H. Smith, the bookseller, and I spied a book on a book rack at the entryway, and it had a lion on the front cover. Yep. And so I went over to it, I picked the book up, and it immediately took me back to a time when I was in Africa. I was in Botswana, in the Chobe National Park, a place called, in the east of Chobe, called Zini. And I was on the top of a game viewing platform, and we would come around this track and we'd open up into this vista, and there was this full-maned lion following a lioness in heat. And the lion took one look at us on the Land Rover. I was up on the game viewing platform with a girl from Cape Town and a bloke from Germany. And so this lion turned around, took one look at us, and charged. And the South African girl and the German bloke tumbled down through the game viewing hatch and slammed it closed behind them, leaving me on the game viewing platform. And so the guy driving the Land Rover puts in the reverse and goes back at speed to try to outrun this lion, but it was as if we were standing still. And so I was up on this game viewing platform watching this lion bound towards us, but I felt no fear. I felt so focused on this animal charging towards us. And as it slammed into the bull bar of the Land Rover, I got the photograph of a lifetime.
Wow.
And then the lion turned and went about its business. Now, I tell that story not because of that incident. I tell the story because of that book that I picked up in Paddington train station. And so the title of the book was When the Lion Feeds by Wilbur Smith. And that changed my world. And so that was the very first book that I ever read. And it took a long time to do it, but it opened up a whole new world to me that I never knew existed. When I ended up going back to New Zealand, I decided that I needed to do something about my dyslexia because of the advantages and the opportunities that had opened up to me while I was traveling. I went through Australia, Africa, the UK, Europe, the United States, and I thought, gosh, if I'm going to take advantage of these opportunities, I need to be able to get a handle on this handicap. And so I studied and I received a diploma in clinical hypnotherapy, and I started a hypnotherapy practice, which morphed into a peak performance consultancy. But shock horror, when I'd actually gone and passed I got to my diploma, all of a sudden I realized that I had to write these personalized inductions and therapies for my clients. I could hardly spell, let alone read. And so I decided, I come up with another brainwave. I'll write a book. And so I decided I'd write a book about my travels around the world. And began the novel Scars of the Leopard. And so during that time of writing the book, a strange thing happened. So it was a struggle. And initially, but then what would happen, my conscious mind would quieten down, and I would start operating in the right hemisphere of my brain. I was already very right hemisphere focused. But what I started experiencing was what we know today as the flow state.
Yes.
And so that flow state, and through neuroplasticity, started repairing some of those areas in my left hemisphere of my brain that had held me up. And so one of the two difficulties that I had was breaking words up into syllables, which I still can't really do. And the other one was visually recognizing words and how and the context of them. And so what I actually did, what I found was that that area started repairing. And because I was already right hemisphere dominant, I had very good spatial context, spatial reasoning. And I started to understand how words would fit together into sentences, sentences into paragraphs into chapters. And so, and I found that I could actually string a series of words together into an intelligible story, into a story. And so that's basically how it began. And I wrote my first book, Scars of the Leopard, and then I went straight into my next one, White Gold. And so White Gold is about ivory poaching in and around Southern Africa, and it follows everything in my novels is based on fact. So it's the places that I've been, the places that I've experienced, and basically how anti-poaching and poaching is undertaken. And so it became a very rewarding experience for me. And so now I have an African series, which I've gone through. I've finished another book, and I'm 3/4 of the way through that must be my 7th book. So it's that's basically how it began. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have other interests and I have other activities I'm involved in. But through my writing and through giving back through my registered nonprofit, that's what I put a lot of my success down to. So it has a very dear place in my heart, writing, the African wilderness, those keystone species, and the conservation that my Wildlife Foundation supports.
That's incredible. And thank you so much just for making the choice, to live a life like this. Because what I've also seen in life is there's so many excuses not to do it. So I really honor, making the decision to go beyond, what we see as a disability. Dyslexia is a big, big thing. And that's my next question to you, David. Anyone tuning in today having dyslexia or having so much they feel is against them not to pick up a pen, not to pursue those dreams, what advice would you give them?
Well, the thing is that while I used to view my dyslexia as a disability, I now view it as a gift because I think differently. I think differently than a lot of people. I'm very right hemisphere dominant, and but and one of the things that I learned when through my hypnotherapy practice and through my peak performance consultancy is that if you can articulate a question, you already have the knowledge to have it answered. And so that's what I would advise to anybody with a similar disability is just you already have the answers within you. You've just got to figure out how it best works for you to express it. And so it may not necessarily be writing; it could be other forms of the arts. But people who are dyslexic are very creative and they have very vivid imaginations. And so there will be a real gift locked in, trapped in with a lot of people who have similar disabilities to me. And the best thing to do is to question themselves about how to take that next step. And then the other thing is to just begin.
No, I couldn't have agreed more. It is to begin. And like I'm thinking back of my years in high school with maths. So me and maths, there's no way. I still like if I see a lot of, it's like this resistance I have built up. Like I just block it out completely. So it is like almost to break through the barriers within yourself to really pick up that pen. Like you said, you picked up a book at the age of 23, really for the first time. And for me personally, I've been a bookworm since I can remember. So it is like almost the new world that opens up. But first, within yourself, you have to break through that barrier between you. And I agree with you, David. It is a gift at the end of the day, which we usually see as an obstacle, might be the biggest gift of all. So thank you so much for that. And if anyone would like to purchase your books or get in contact with you, how can they do that?
Well, the best thing is to go to my website, which is davidmarkquigley.com, or I'm pretty easy to find on Amazon or Google or what have you. So that's really the best way. And yeah.
If I can ask you a final question, how would you define a life of service for anyone thinking, oh, I also want to make a change? How would you define a life of service of others?
Well, I suppose defining a life of service is to decide what you are passionate about. And generally, if that passion aligns with giving back in some way, it's all very well me just writing and earning royalties from my books, but I've taken it one step further and I've established a registered nonprofit. So a percentage of those royalties goes to that nonprofit. So figure out what you are passionate about and figure out how that can give back to not necessarily humanity, but the world as a whole, because it's very important um, that we retain those keystone species within the wilderness. I mean, I just read an article yesterday about a game, a, a series of game reserves that have been amalgamated together, and in the last few years, they have doubled the number of leopards that are now are in that reserve, and I think it's the largest wildlife reserve in the world. And so now there are leopards in, I think there's one leopard every 100 square kilometers, which is about what the habitat you need. You need in between 50 and 100 for a fully grown leopard to be able to thrive. And so that shows what conservation can do. And a good example, the last donation that we made it to the Tiki Hayward Trust, and those funds went to GPS units to go on the back of those rewilded pangolins that they have reintroduced back into the wild. So again, it's figuring out what your passion is, and figuring out how that can be of service to humanity and the rest of the world. So that is how I would define, what being of service is.
Thank you so much, David. And also, I do want to add what you do is giving a voice to the wildlife, animals who don't have a voice. So just thank you so much for the work you do and for joining me here today.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, the thing is, a lot of people want to donate to wildlife, but they just don't know how. They don't know how to basically do it, and so I just give them that opportunity through being entertained. They're actually going to contribute to worthy wildlife causes around the world. So it's an easy way to I suppose be of service.
And it's a lifestyle. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
And for everyone who tuned in today, David's links will be here on the program. Thank you so much for joining in. I hope that you were inspired, like I was, to see the bravery that David showed by picking up a pen after so many years and seeing everything he went through as a gift to now serve the world with it, the nonprofit, his stories, and for you as well, waiting on the other side, to just know that if you haven't started yet, to be brave. It's that one decision that could change not only your life, but also those waiting for you, and the courage that you will show, like David did. Have a fantastic day, everyone. Keep on writing and keep on shining.
Just watch me shine.